A man's mother has passed away, so he comes to his hometown to pay his respects to her. He's shocked when he finds a tombstone bearing his name and a child's photo near her grave. Morton had not visited his hometown since he moved to Europe to establish a career as an acrobat. His mother had been old and fragile and she didn't work, so Morton used to send her a monthly allowance to cover her utility bills and other things. But one day he checked the joint account they shared and noticed the money was lying there untouched. At that moment, Morton knew something was wrong and he dialed an old friend in his hometown only to learn his dear mother was gone. "When did it happen? Those people, they didn't even let me know." "Your father's family said they couldn't reach you. It's been over 2 months, Morton," his friend Alicia said. "She missed you, you know that." "I want to meet her," he told her. "I really should. This is the last thing I can do for her as a son." "She'd love that," she said. "Would you come with me?" he asked, "to pay respects to her? I don't think I can face this alone. I still can't believe she's gone." "I will," she said encouragingly. "You know I'll never say no. She was like family to me. I miss her too." That weekend, Morton flew to the small village in Tennessee to visit the grave of his late mother and was joined by Alicia. He'd bought a bouquet of white lilies that had been his mother's favorite, and he cried when he laid it against the cold gray stone. "I miss you, Mom," he whispered to her. "More than you know, and I love you. I always have. I wish I'd been a better son and visited you more often. We could have spent time together. Sorry, Mom." Morton wiped his tears as he rose to his feet to leave the cemetery when Alicia began pulling his arm. "Morton, look there," she gasped. "That's you, that has your name." Alicia was pointing to a tombstone not far from his mother's, and he was shocked as he ran his fingers over the name engraved on it. "The beloved memory of Morton," the inscription read, and an old picture of a child was nearby, wrapped in a transparent waterproof package. Morton picked up the picture and looked at the old snapshot displaying a child who was a vivid image of him. "How is this possible?" he asked himself. "Who's the child in this picture? Did you have a brother you didn't know of? Honestly, this is weird and you never know. Maybe you did have a twin and you shared the same name?" Alicia said. "I don't know," Morton sighed. "I really don't know anything. Mom never told me anything about having a brother, and I wasn't close to my father, you know that. But if I do have a brother, I want to find him, and I think I know where to start." An hour later, Morton and Alicia were in his mother's cottage searching for clues, albums, and anything that would justify his name on the grave. He was checking her bedside drawers and found a couple of old albums, but nothing significant. Morton and his father were estranged and he didn't visit his mother often. Then he learned they were separated, so he began sending her an allowance to support her. Morton checked the last drawer and album he found and sighed when it didn't lead to anything valuable. Then he saw, peeking from under the mattress of his late mother's bed, was a file. The sheets inside were stained dirty yellow and most of the handwriting on them was gone, but Alicia and Morton deduced it belonged to a nursing home in the village when Morton's mother's old cousin had been living. "You think she can tell you anything?" Alicia asked. "What if the place closed down? There's no contact number here," she added, shuffling the sheets. "I didn't know Mom had a cousin in a nursing home, and if she kept the file under her mattress and never told me anything about her, this means we're one step closer to this mystery, mess, or whatever you'd like to call it. Let's visit this place and we'll find out." So Morton and Alicia drove to the Mayflower care home, and while the building seemed very old, it was still there and it was operational. Morton approached the receptionist and inquired about a Betty, saying he was a relative and wanted to meet her. The receptionist took him and Alicia to a room as joyful as the sea on a bright sunny day, but the figure inside the space in the wheelchair, Betty, looked sad and forlorn. "Betty?" Morton asked, and the figure moved slightly to face him. "Hi, I'm Morton, I'm your nephew." "Martin who?" she asked. "Am I supposed to know you?" "I'm Catherine's son," Morton said, hoping it would jog the older lady's memory, and it did. "Oh!" She covered her mouth with her palms and then tears began streaming down her cheeks. "You're my Catherine's son. I only saw you as a baby. She hasn't visited me in a while. Is she okay?" "Mom died, Betty," Morton revealed. "It's been 2 months and I'm here to ask you something about her. Did Mom give birth to twins? I mean, do I have a brother? Do you know anything about my mother's past?" "No, you don't. You don't have a twin brother," said Betty in tears. "But oh dear, Catherine, I couldn't say goodbye to her." "I went to visit Mom," Morton said, "and I found this near her grave." He showed Catherine a snap of his grave and childhood photo on his phone, and Betty shared a story that shocked Morton and Alicia. "That man in the picture's not you but your father, and he had the same name as you. Your mother had 2 lovers, or I'd say one was a lover and the other an admirer. She had named you after her lover." Betty told him his birth father was a poor acrobat who died in an accident, leaving his mother alone with a 1-year-old baby boy, Morton. The admirer, Martin's stepfather, was a rich man who loved his mother, married her after his father's demise, and promised to raise him as his son. Catherine's poor parents worked for Martin's stepfather, and that's how Martin's stepfather met her. He had fertility problems, so he married Catherine for an heir, but things turned out differently when Martin grew up. As a teen, Martin suddenly developed an interest in acrobatics, and his wealthy father was against his passion, so Martin severed all ties with him and moved to Europe to pursue his dream. He didn't know his stepfather wasn't his biological dad, and that his bio dad had been an acrobat too. Catherine never told him about him, and nobody knows why. "I think they buried her there because they wanted her to be near the man who was her first love," Betty said. "Fate is strange, isn't it? Your mother visited me often and never spoke about her new life with your new father, no matter how much I pressed her. Now I know she'd been as sad, as lonely as me." Martin was in tears and couldn't believe his mother had gone through so much. He was angered at his stepfather and visited his address, where another terrible surprise awaited him. His stepfather was dead, and living in his house was a lonely old woman, Martin's grandmother Poppy. She was the mother of the man Martin had despised all his adulthood, but tragically was the only family he had besides Betty. "You're a grown-up man," she smiled through tears when she met Martin. "I'm sorry about your mother, Martin, but I hope you know she's close to someone she loved." "I know, Gran," he cried into her lap like a little boy. "I lost everyone. Now all I have is you and Aunt Betty. I don't think I have the courage to leave my family alone again. I don't think I can." So Martin moved back to America, bought a new house, and moved in with Poppy and Betty. 6 months later, he married Alicia, who'd always been there for him, and they became a family, accepting they were all linked by fate to meet a somewhat happy end. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.